Hey guys, we're back with another video today. I've just received this box from Hydrofoil. Today we're going to be doing an unboxing and initial setup video on a full hydrofoil setup from Axis. This stuff is insane. So before we get into it, I just want to say thanks for all the messages lately and all the support. It's been really good to see. So if you like what you see with these videos, hit that subscribe button and we're not going to waste any more time. Let's open this box up and get into the good stuff. Okay guys, so we've got everything unpacked and laid out for you here. So let's go through everything piece by piece and show you what you get in your full hydrofoil setup from Axis. I'm going to start with the front wing. So this is the Carbon Surf Series 66 centimeter surf wing from Axis, the Gull Wing Beast. We're bolting this on today. So next up is our rear wing or stabilizer. So today we're using the downturned 390 GAP rear wing. Okay, so next in line we're getting into the machined aluminium components, which I really like. These things look super sexy. So today we're running with the 68 centimeter 16 millimeter mast. Next up is the fuselage. So today we're running the short fuse from Axis, which is 68 centimeters, machined aluminium. Beautiful, nice big solid front plate here for bolting on the front wing. Keeps a really solid connection. Okay, the Axis mast base plate. So this is a 16 millimeter version, so it fits the mast that we have today. I love this base plate. It's probably the best one I've seen in foiling so far. Rubber backed, which protects your foil board, and it also helps hold those bolts in nice and solid. All sorts of mounting options on this base plate, and open-ended screw holes, which is great. So you can slide your deck bolts in and out really easily, which means when you're putting your board together and taking it apart at the end of a session, everything's really quick and easy. Okay, now for my favorite part of the whole setup, the most adorable Axis doodad. Yes, it is called a doodad. This is the 16 millimeter version. This guy lives between the fuselage and the mast, and it helps create that solid connection. Okay, the bag of bolts, you'll see these come out throughout this whole build. Everything you need to put your Axis foil setup together. Stainless steel bolts here with Torx screws, and there's also some Tef gel in there. We'll get into more detail on those. And finally, you should get an instruction sheet with your setup which tells you which bolts go where and how to put this thing together, but since you're watching this video, you will not be needing that. Okay guys, time to put our hydrofoil set together. So I'm going to look at some tools really quickly, and included in your hydrofoil set from Axis are these two Torx tools. So we have the M8 and the M6. These are pretty good and they'll definitely get the job done, but to make things a bit quicker, I've invested in a small battery drill with the appropriate Torx part, and I find that this really helps because I dismantle my gear after every single session, and it's just a lot quicker and easier when you can use this guy to put your foil setup together and take it apart at the end of every session. And I also keep a ratchet socket tool as well with me, so if my drill battery goes flat or if I lose one of the other ones, I've got backup. Make sure you have an M6 Torx bit and also an M8 Torx bit, and then you can put this whole thing together. Okay, so before we start putting this together, I just want to have a quick chat about the Tef gel. Now this stuff here is included in your setup, and it's really important that we put the Tef gel on every bolt as we go. We need to make sure we protect those threads so they'll stop corrosion, and the Tef gel will also prevent everything seizing up. So in a couple of months' time, when you haven't foiled in a while and you go to take everything apart, it won't be seized, and it's a good idea to replace the Tef gel on your setup a couple of times a year. Even 3 times a year is good. So clean all your bolts from time to time and reapply your Tef gel. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to start off with the base plate and our mast. So this is where the fun begins. So the 68 centimeter mast and the base plate, there's only one way to put this together, so it's quite easy. The mast, the trailing edge is very thin. It goes to the back of the base plate. It will only go in one way. It's quite simple. We drop that in there like that, and now we're going to get the appropriate bolts to put it together. So for this part, we're using two M8 35 millimeter screws here, and as I said before, we've got to make sure we put the Tef gel on. Okay, so the best way to use the Tef gel is to apply a nice amount of it to one of your threads, and then we use another bolt to make sure we get an even spread. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind with the Tef gel, it's super sticky and you'll get it on your fingers. Try not to get it on your fingers because you're going to leave fingerprints all over this amazing shiny new gear. And I'm a bit weird like that, so try and keep your fingers clean, try and keep the Tef gel just on the bolts. I'll put those aside for now. Okay, so this is something that I do and it's not in the instructions and it's just for the base plate to mast connection. I like to use Teflon tape on the bolts, which prevents them coming undone. These, I find, if anything's going to come loose, it's these two. So I leave my mast and plate connected most of the time between sessions. I don't often take these two bolts apart, so I will put Teflon tape on those just to make sure that it's a rock solid connection. Okay, so just some Teflon tape on the bottom 1/3 of the bolt will be enough. Okay. Okay, so I've applied Teflon tape just to the bottom half or third of each of these bolts. That's going to keep them in place. So we get our two 35mm bolts straight in the top of the mast and the base plate. Super simple. I get them started by hand. And because I like things to go faster than normal, I'm going to use my battery drill to finish the job. And just a tip, if you're using a battery drill for any of this, use it on the slowest setting possible. We don't have to be super rushed. We want to protect those threads and we definitely don't want to be doing any damage to this gear. Once they're tightened up, the battery drills are cool because you can just nip them up a little bit. We don't need to over tighten these screws at all. There we go, just to make sure they're nice and solid. And we are ready for fuselage. So the next step is to attach the fuselage. Before I do that, I'm going to put the tail wing on the back of the fuselage as well, just so it's easier to put together later on. So we take our fuselage, we get our rear wing, and there are two M6 25mm bolts that connect our rear wing to the fuse. So we take the bolts, we're going to Tef gel these as well. So the back wing slots in beautifully here and it fits nicely to the back tail end of the fuselage. We hold it in place, we take the 6mm bolts, we get them started by hand. And then we're going to finish them off with the battery drill. Okay, so they are nice and tight, nice solid connection. Tail wing on the fuse, ready to go. So the next step will be to connect the doodad into the fuse here and then on top of the mast. So we take the 16mm doodad, which only fits one way into the top of the fuselage here. A nice slotted position for that to just drop straight into, just like that. And then we're going to flip this over, holding it in place, and it's going to go straight on top of the mast here. There we go, it sits in perfectly, and that's going to create a really solid connection from your front wing, your stabiliser, through the mast and all the way to your foil board, which is one of the most important things about a good hydrofoil setup, is the stiffness. Now we're going to put in the 70mm M8 bolts to connect the fuselage to the mast. So two of these, again, Tef gel on the whole threads here to keep them protected and also to stop them binding up. Okay, we'll take the drill. Okay, we give them one last tighten up there with the drill. It's just enough power to get those rock solid without coming apart. Our hydrofoil set is taking shape. Now it's time to add the front wing. So as we said before, the front of the fuselage has a really nice chunky plate here which slots into the front wing nicely. Perfect recessed, straight in like that. It sits in place beautifully. To connect the 660 wing to the fuselage, we're using three 20mm M8 bolts. Again, make sure you put Tef gel on these. Okay, and we send those guys home with the drill. Again, we make sure they're nice and solid without over tightening. Okay, so it's that simple. Our foil set is put together. All right, so there's our foil setup, looking amazing. Next step is to attach it to a board. I'll grab my board, let's have a look. All right, so I've got my favorite Sonova 4.0 foil board here, ready to attach our new axis foil setup to. So we turn it over, we can see the foil bolt channel here. We take our 4 slide nuts here, which are these guys, and our 4 M8 25mm bolts, and we're going to put this together. Our M8 slide nuts and bolts are going to go straight into the foil channel here, into position. And one tip that I've got for these is make sure when you're not using them, you either take them out of your board and put them somewhere safe, or you just tighten them up by hand so they can't slide out. There is no worse feeling than rocking up at the beach and you've lost 1 or 2 of these, because they will slide and fall out of this channel all on their own. So make sure they're either secured in your board or taken out and put in somewhere safe. I often get asked where to mount the foil on the foil board. And that's a really hard thing to answer, because all boards are different, rider weights are different, foil setups are different. But as a general rule, if you're unsure, I would say generally further to the back of the board, which will give less lift. We don't want anything too out of control when we're learning or starting off with a new board. So to be on the safe side, I'd go towards the back of the board and have your tools handy, because you might go out and find that you need a little more lift. Come in really quickly, adjust these bolts, and you can slide your foil a little bit further on as you need. I know from experience this is such a tiny board. I always mount my mast all the way to the back of this board anyway, because I'm getting so much lift being such a tiny board. So I'm going to go right ahead now and bolt this to the back end of the board. Okay, in place, lined up with the tracks. The magic axis deck bolts and plate allow you to slide these straight in to position. Really easy, just like that. We take our drill and we tighten these guys up, nice and secure. Then I'll go over them really quickly and just make sure they're nice and tight. And that's it, you're ready to foil. All right guys, there it is, we're all done. Everything is put together now, ready for you to hit the water. One thing left to do, and that is just to go and shred. One last tip is maintenance before we go. It's recommended that you take your gear apart every 2 to 3 weeks. Give everything a nice flush out and a clean with fresh water, and then redo your Tef gel on all of your bolts. So that means that if you accidentally leave it connected for a long period of time, everything's going to come apart nicely, nothing will be seized, and you'll have good resale value on your gear. So thanks for watching this video guys. I hope you've all enjoyed it. If I've missed anything, leave a comment, drop me a message, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you soon, cheers. That's what this guy does. We'll be putting this on in a minute. Oh, in a minute. Okay, that ring. Oh, that was so close. Okay, I'm going to do this properly. That good, or should I do that again? What was I going to say? Okay, I got this. Oh no, it's short fuse. All right. It's good, eh? Do that. Where does it go? No, it goes between the mast and the fuselage. Now I just need to refer to my paper, and you can always Hydrofoil. What did I say the first time? It was so good.